My son seized my credit cards and declared, "You won't need cash ever again." I froze every account that same night. The following morning his wife was sobbing on the phone to her mother. What I did afterward was quiet and irreversible. Family story. I still remember the exact sound of the front door closing that Tuesday evening. It was the soft click that always meant my son Derek was home from work. I was in the kitchen of the little ranch house I had lived in for 32 years on Maple Ridge Drive, the same house where he had grown up, the same kitchen where I had packed his lunches and wiped his scraped knees. The clock on the microwave said 6:47. I had a pot of coffee going because he always liked a cup when he stopped by after work. He walked in without calling out the way he used to. His face looked tight, the way it did when something was bothering him at the office. He set his keys on the counter and looked straight at me. "Mom, we need to talk about the money." I turned off the burner and dried my hands on the dish towel. "What about it?" He pulled a folded bank statement out of his jacket pocket and laid it on the counter between us. It was mine. The one that came in the mail 3 days earlier. I had not opened it yet because the numbers never changed much. Social Security, the small pension from the plant, a couple of automatic payments for the homeowners association and the water bill. Nothing dramatic. "You have 3 credit cards," he said. "And you keep using them for things you don't need. Groceries at the fancy store. That new chair for the porch. The donation to the church fundraiser. You're 71 years old. You don't need to be spending like this." I stared at the statement. The total balances were under $2,000 combined. I paid them off every month. I always had. "I pay them off," I said. "That's not the point." He ran a hand through his hair the way he used to when he was 16 and trying to explain why the car had a new dent. "Claire and I have been talking. We're worried. What if something happens to you and these cards are still open? What if someone steals one? You're living alone in this house. You don't need access to credit anymore. We've got you covered." I felt something cold settle under my ribs. "You've got me covered how?" He reached into his other pocket and pulled out my 3 credit cards. The Visa, the MasterCard, and the little store card from the hardware place I used for paint and light bulbs. He had taken them from my purse while I was in the backyard watering the tomatoes an hour earlier. I knew that purse had been hanging on the hook by the door. I always left it there. "I'm taking these," he said. "You won't need cash ever again. Claire and I will handle the bills. We'll transfer what you need into your checking account every month. You'll be safer this way." I looked at the cards in his hand. The plastic edges caught the kitchen light. My name was still embossed on them in silver letters. I had opened the first one the year after my husband died. It had helped me keep the house when the insurance money ran low. The second one I had used to buy the new furnace when the old one quit in the middle of a January freeze. The third one was just for the small things that made the house feel like mine. "Give those back," I said. He shook his head. "No. This is for your own good. You're not thinking clearly about money anymore." Claire noticed the charges. She said it was time. Claire. His wife of 9 years. The woman who had moved into this house with him for 6 months after they got married while they saved for their own place. The woman who still called me Mrs. Callahan even after I asked her to use my first name. The woman who rearranged my spice cabinet the last time she visited and never put the cumin back where it belonged. I did not raise my voice. I simply walked to the front door, opened it, and waited. Derek looked at me for a long second, then walked out with my cards in his pocket. The door clicked shut behind him the same soft way it had when he arrived. That night I sat at the kitchen table with my laptop. The password was the same one I had used for years. I logged into every account. The Visa. The MasterCard. The hardware store card. One by one I froze them. Then I canceled them completely. The confirmation emails arrived within minutes. I printed each one and laid them in a neat stack beside the salt shaker. I did not call Derek. I did not text Claire. I made a second pot of coffee and drank it black while the house settled into its usual nighttime creaks. The furnace kicked on. The refrigerator hummed. Somewhere down the street a dog barked twice and went quiet. The next morning the phone rang at 8:12. I let it go to voicemail the first time. It rang again at 8:19. I picked up on the third ring. Claire's voice was high and wet. "Mrs. Callahan? I need to talk to you. Something's wrong with the cards. Derek said he took them last night, but now the banks are saying they're closed. Completely closed. We can't even look at the balances. My mother is on the other line and she's asking questions I don't know how to answer." I could hear another woman's voice in the background, sharp and rising. Claire's mother lived 2 states away and had strong opinions about everything from table settings to retirement accounts. "I canceled them," I said. There was a long silence. Then Claire started crying in earnest. The kind of crying that makes the words come out in broken pieces. "Why would you do that? Derek was only trying to help. We were going to take care of everything. Now the automatic payments for the HOA are going to bounce and the water company is going to send a notice and my mother is saying we should have power of attorney already and I don't know what to tell her." I listened until the sobs slowed. Outside the kitchen window the neighbor's sprinkler system clicked on and began its slow arc across the lawn. A school bus passed at the end of the street, yellow and loud for a few seconds, then gone. "I need you to understand something," I said. "Those cards were in my name. The accounts were in my name. The decisions about them are in my name. You and Derek do not get to decide that I no longer need money of my own." Claire's voice dropped to a whisper. "But you're alone. What if something happens?" "Then something happens," I said. "I've been alone for 11 years. I've managed." I hung up. The phone rang again almost immediately. I turned the ringer off and set the handset back in its cradle. That afternoon I drove to the bank on the corner of Oak and 3rd. The same branch where I had opened my first savings account with my husband in 1979. The teller recognized me and called the branch manager over. I explained what I needed. A new checking account with online access only I controlled. A debit card that would arrive in 5 to 7 business days. A small line of credit attached to the account that required my signature and nothing else. I transferred every dollar from the old accounts into the new one while I sat in the glass-walled office. The manager printed the confirmations and I signed where he pointed. On the way home I stopped at the hardware store and bought a new lock for the front door. The kind that came with 4 keys and a note saying the previous keys would no longer work. I installed it myself that evening, standing on the little step stool I kept in the hall closet, the screwdriver steady in my hand. Derek came by 2 days later. He stood on the porch and tried the old key first. When it did not turn, he knocked. I opened the door but did not step aside. "Mom, this has gone far enough," he said. "Claire's mother is threatening to drive up here. She says we're neglecting you. The HOA already called about the payment. We need access to the accounts so we can fix this." I looked at him the way I used to look at him when he was 12 and had broken the living room window with a baseball. "You took my cards without asking. You told me I would never need money again. That was your decision. This is mine." He started to speak. I closed the door. The new lock made a solid, final sound. For the next week the phone stayed mostly quiet. Claire left one more voicemail that I deleted without listening past the first sentence. Derek sent a text that simply said we needed to talk. I did not answer. On the 8th day I received a letter from the HOA. The payment had cleared from the new account. The water bill had cleared too. The small automatic donations I had set up years ago to the church and the local animal shelter continued without interruption. Nothing bounced. Nothing failed. I spent the following Saturday morning on the front porch with a cup of coffee in the new chair I had bought the month before. The one Derek had pointed to on the bank statement as proof I was spending too freely. The wood was smooth under my hands. The cushions still smelled faintly of the warehouse where they had been packaged. Across the street the neighbors' kids were riding bikes in slow loops. A delivery truck stopped 2 houses down and the driver waved the way people still wave in this neighborhood. I did not call my son. I did not explain myself to Claire or her mother. I simply lived in the house that had always been mine, with money that was once again only mine, and keys that opened only for the people I chose to let inside. The quiet that settled over the place after that was not empty. It was the quiet of a decision that did not need to be defended out loud. The kind of quiet that lasts.